They say the worst pain is losing someone you love. But what if the person you lose is still right there beside you, your own child? Last week, I watched my son walk away from me in a crowded airport. Not by accident. Not in confusion. He left me. He looked me in the eyes, and in that moment, decades of trust and family shattered like glass on a tile floor. I'm 78 years old, and I never thought I'd be abandoned by the one person I trusted most. But what came next, what I discovered about myself in the silence that followed, changed everything. If you've ever wondered how it feels to be truly left behind, stay with me, because sometimes the end of one story is just the beginning of another. The hum of the airport lounge was a familiar lullaby. 78 years had woven a tapestry of sounds into my life, and this, the low thrum of distant engines, the hushed murmur of conversations, the rhythmic tap-tap-tap of someone's impatient fingers, was a comforting part of that fabric. I watched the people drift by, a river of hurried movements and preoccupied faces, each one a tiny story unfolding in its own silent world. My son, Daniel, had gone to the restroom. He'd been unusually quiet on the flight, a quietness that mirrored my own, a subtle unease that settled in the space between our carefully chosen words. This trip to see my granddaughter graduate, a milestone I'd anticipated with a quiet joy, was tinged with a peculiar anxiety I couldn't quite name. The glossy pages of a well-worn magazine lay forgotten in my lap. The vibrant colors seemed muted, dulled by the anticipation hanging heavy in the air. My fingers traced the worn cover, a familiar comfort in the unfamiliar setting. I'd always found solace in routine, in the predictable rhythm of days that unfolded like a well-loved book. But this trip, this journey to celebrate my granddaughter, felt different. It felt fragile, like a delicate glass figurine poised on the edge of a table, ready to shatter at the slightest tremor. I adjusted the weight of my carry-on bag, the familiar heft a small anchor in the swirling sea of my thoughts. The leather was soft and worn, a testament to countless journeys, each one a chapter in the unfolding narrative of my life. Each wrinkle on that worn leather mirrored the lines etched onto my own face, each a silent witness to the passage of time, to the joys and sorrows, the triumphs and disappointments that had shaped me. My gaze drifted to the large window overlooking the tarmac, the plains a silent promise of destinations, both familiar and unknown. Daniel still hadn't returned. A small, nagging worry started to prick at the edges of my contentment. It was a tiny seed of unease, but already I felt its tendrils reaching, spreading, threatening to engulf me in a darkness I hadn't anticipated. The seemingly ordinary scene before me, the bustling airport, the waiting passengers, suddenly felt charged with a foreboding I couldn't quite understand. This quiet waiting room, this moment of mundane anticipation, was about to change everything. The hum of the airport faded slightly, replaced by a rising crescendo of dread, a silent symphony of what was to come. Minutes stretched into an eternity. The rhythmic pulse of the airport, once a comforting backdrop, now felt like a relentless drumbeat against the growing unease in my chest. Passengers around me began to disperse, their journeys commencing, their lives flowing onward. Each departing figure was a tiny pinprick to the balloon of my already fragile composure. I watched them, their faces a mixture of excitement and relief, a stark contrast to the icy dread that was slowly freezing my insides. Where was Daniel? The initial, almost imperceptible anxiety morphed into something more concrete, a cold knot tightening in my stomach. The cheerful chatter of the remaining passengers seemed distant, muffled as if heard through layers of cotton wool. My gaze kept returning to the now nearly empty gate, the silence amplifying the deafening roar of my own apprehension. The brightly colored advertisements on the walls seemed to mock my growing despair, their promises of adventure and excitement a cruel jest in the face of my mounting dread. I checked my watch, again and again, each glance a fresh stab of anxiety. The polished surface reflected my own worried face, etched with the deep lines of years lived, years filled with both joy and sorrow, but never before with this particular brand of desolate fear. The comfortable weight of my carry-on bag suddenly felt like a burden, a physical manifestation of the weight pressing down on my soul. The familiar scent of leather, usually a source of comfort, now carried the acrid tang of impending loss. The airport's gentle hum had become a discordant symphony of my own internal turmoil. The rhythmic tap-tap-tap of someone's impatient fingers now echoed the frantic beat of my own heart. Outside, the relentless sun seemed to mock my growing despair, a symbol of a future that suddenly looked bleak and uncertain. The world outside my immediate space, the bustling airport, the oblivious travelers seemed to recede, replaced by a stark, internal landscape of fear and confusion. The seemingly ordinary details of the airport, the blinking departure signs, the muffled announcements, were transformed into ominous symbols of an approaching storm. The quiet contentment of the previous moments was a distant memory, replaced by the chilling reality of abandonment. The weight of unspoken words, of unanswered questions, pressed down on me with crushing force. My son, my own flesh and blood, had left me here, alone. The finality of it hit me like a physical blow. A wave of nausea washed over me, leaving me breathless and weak. Not a gradual dawning, but a sudden, brutal revelation. He was gone. Daniel had left me here, stranded in this echoing hall amidst the indifferent flow of hurrying strangers. My breath caught in my throat, a strangled gasp lost in the muted hum of the airport. My hands, usually steady, trembled uncontrollably, the worn leather of my bag suddenly feeling rough and unfamiliar beneath my fingertips. Disbelief warred with a rising tide of despair. It couldn't be true. It simply couldn't. My son, my only son, wouldn't do this. Would he? The thought was a bitter pill, hard to swallow yet impossible to ignore. The carefully constructed world of my assumptions, my expectations, shattered into a million pieces around me. The weight of the realization pressed down on my chest, a physical burden that stole my breath. Each intake of air felt like a struggle, a desperate fight against the tightening band around my ribs. My mind raced, searching for explanations, for some rationalization of this inexplicable act. Had I done something? Said something? Had I somehow inadvertently pushed him away? The questions swirled in my head, a dizzying vortex of self-recrimination and confusion. The vibrant colors of the airport seemed to drain away, replaced by a monochrome landscape of despair. The faces of the departing passengers blurred into a sea of indifferent anonymity, their hurried steps a stark reminder of my isolation. The comfortable routine of my life, the predictable rhythm of my days, had been violently disrupted, leaving me adrift in a sea of uncertainty. The future, once a comforting landscape of familiar paths, now stretched before me, a vast and terrifying expanse of unknown territory. And yet, amidst the shock and the disbelief, a tiny spark of something else flickered, a stubborn ember of resilience, refusing to be extinguished by the darkness that threatened to engulf me. A quiet resolve, born from years of weathering life's storms, began to take root. This wasn't the end. This was simply a beginning of something new, something unexpected, something I couldn't yet comprehend, but something I was determined to face. The initial shock gave way to a burning rage, a white-hot fury that scorched my insides. How could he? How could my own son, the man I'd raised, the man I'd loved and supported through thick and thin, leave me like this? The words, unspoken yet deafening in their intensity, echoed in the silence of my mind. Selfish, I raged silently, the accusation a bitter taste on my tongue. Coward, thoughtless. The words felt inadequate, pathetic attempts to capture the depth of my betrayal. This wasn't just about being left alone in an airport. This was about a lifetime of shared moments, of unspoken promises, of a bond I'd believed to be unbreakable, shattered like a carelessly thrown stone. The memories, once cherished, now felt like sharp shards of glass, piercing my heart. The laughter, the shared sorrows, the quiet moments of understanding, all tainted by this act of profound desertion. The weight of those years, of those shared experiences, now pressed down on me with crushing force, a testament to the depth of my son's betrayal. My anger wasn't just directed at him. It was a rage at the unfairness of it all, at the cruel twist of fate that had left me, in my twilight years, vulnerable and alone. The years of unwavering support, of sacrifices made, seemed to mock me from the shadows of my memory. Every act of kindness, every gesture of love, now felt like a cruel irony, a prelude to this brutal abandonment. This wasn't just an abandonment of a father, it was a rejection of a legacy, a dismissal of a lifetime's worth of memories. The silent accusations echoed in the vast emptiness of the airport terminal, mingling with the distant rumble of departing planes, each one a symbol of a future I no longer recognized. Yet, even in the depths of my anger, a different feeling began to stir. A quiet sadness, a melancholic acceptance of the reality before me. It was a slow, painful process, but even in this overwhelming betrayal, a seed of self-discovery was beginning to sprout, a stubborn refusal to let bitterness consume me. The anger remained, a fierce, unprotective flame, but it was no longer all-consuming. It was tempered now by the quiet determination to navigate this new, unfamiliar landscape alone. The raw fury began to ebb, leaving behind a vast emptiness, a hollow ache where my anger had resided. It was a sadness so profound, so encompassing, that it stole the very air from my lungs. The bustling airport, once a source of anxiety, now felt like a cruel parody of human connection, a relentless reminder of my utter isolation. The hurried footsteps of the passengers, their absorbed conversations, their obliviousness to my plight, served only to amplify my loneliness. I sat there, a small, insignificant figure amidst the throng, a silent testament to the fragility of human relationships. The weight of my years pressed down on me, each line etched onto my face a silent witness to a lifetime of joys and sorrows, now overshadowed by this profound sense of loss. The vibrant colors of the airport seemed to fade, replaced by a muted grayness that mirrored the despair within my soul. My carefully constructed world, the world I had built brick by brick over decades, had crumbled, leaving me exposed, vulnerable, adrift in a sea of unfamiliar emotions. The airport's relentless hum, once a comforting lullaby, now sounded like a mocking chorus, highlighting my solitude. I was a solitary island in a sea of humanity, surrounded by people yet utterly alone. The familiar weight of my carry-on bag suddenly felt heavier than ever, a physical manifestation of the burden I carried within. The worn leather, once a source of comfort, now felt like a cold, unyielding reminder of my isolation. My gaze drifted to the large window overlooking the tarmac, the plains a silent promise of destinations both familiar and unknown. Each departing aircraft was a tiny pinprick to my already wounded heart, a symbol of the journeys I would never take, the moments I would never share. The sun, once a symbol of warmth and life, now felt cold and distant, a cruel reminder of the emotional winter that had descended upon me. The future, once a comforting landscape of familiar paths, now stretched before me, a vast and terrifying expanse of unknown territory. Yet amidst the overwhelming sadness, a flicker of something else emerged, a quiet strength, a stubborn refusal to be defeated. It was a fragile ember, barely visible in the overwhelming darkness, but it was there, a promise of a resilience I hadn't known I possessed. The weight of sadness remained, heavy and inescapable, but it was no longer all-consuming. It was merely one facet of a complex and evolving reality. A fog of confusion settled over me, a disorienting haze that blurred the lines between reality and dream. The familiar world, once a source of comfort and predictability, now felt alien and threatening. The bright lights of the airport, the constant movement of people, the echoing announcements, all seemed to conspire to dislodge me from my moorings. I felt adrift, lost in a sea of unfamiliar faces and sounds, utterly alone. The simple act of navigating this bustling space felt daunting, an insurmountable challenge. Where do I go? What do I do? The questions echoed in the vast emptiness of my mind, unanswered, unanswerable. My carefully planned itinerary, the meticulously arranged details of my granddaughter's graduation, now felt like a cruel joke, a mocking reminder of my shattered expectations. The future, once a comforting landscape of familiar paths, now stretched before me, a vast and terrifying expanse of unknown territory. My meticulously ordered life, my sense of self, lay in ruins around me. the weight of my helplessness pressed down on me with crushing force. I was an old man, alone, stranded in a world that seemed to move at a speed I could no longer keep pace with. The technological advancements, the hurried pace of life, once simply a backdrop to my existence, now felt like insurmountable obstacles, alien and threatening. The simple act of making a phone call, of finding a place to stay, seemed beyond my capabilities. I felt like a ship without a sail, adrift on a turbulent sea, tossed about by the relentless waves of uncertainty. Even the most basic tasks, finding my way to the baggage claim, locating a telephone, deciding where to go next, felt overwhelming, impossible. The vibrant energy of the airport, once a comforting background hum, now felt like a relentless assault on my senses. The world felt too loud, too fast, too overwhelming. Yet, even in this disorientation, a tiny spark of something else flickered, a quiet defiance, a refusal to be completely consumed by fear and helplessness. It was a slow, gradual process, but the seed of self-reliance was taking root. The confusion remained, a persistent fog obscuring my path, but it was no longer all-encompassing. It was merely one aspect of a complex and evolving reality. I would find my way. I had to. The initial tempest of emotions, the anger, the despair, the confusion, began to subside, leaving behind a weary stillness. It wasn't peace, not exactly, but a kind of exhausted acceptance. The fight was over. I had wrestled with the reality of my situation, and now drained and depleted, I surrendered. This wasn't defeat. It was simply resignation, a quiet acknowledgement of the hand I'd been dealt. The bustling airport, once a symbol of my isolation, now seemed less threatening, more neutral. The hurried footsteps of the passengers, their absorbed conversations, no longer felt like a personal affront. They were simply living their lives, oblivious to my quiet surrender. I sat on the bench, my worn leather bag at my side, a silent observer in this vibrant tapestry of human experience. The weight of my years no longer felt like a crushing burden, but rather a testament to a life lived, a life filled with its share of joys and sorrows. The lines etched onto my face, once a reflection of my despair, now seemed to carry a quiet dignity, a resilience born from years of weathering life's storms. This wasn't the end. It was merely a transition, a passage into a new phase of my life, a chapter I hadn't anticipated, but one I was determined to write with newfound clarity. The future, still uncertain, no longer felt terrifying, but rather a vast and unexplored landscape ripe with possibilities. I felt a sense of liberation, an unburdening of the weight of expectation, of the need to conform to the narratives imposed upon me. I was free from the constraints of my previous life, free to define my own path, to create my own story. This acceptance wasn't passive, it was a conscious choice, a quiet act of defiance against the despair that had threatened to consume me. It was a recognition of my own strength, of my capacity to adapt, to survive, to even thrive in the face of adversity. The resignation wasn't a defeat, but a strategic retreat, a regrouping before the next phase of my journey. The battle was over, but the war for my own self-discovery was just beginning, and I was ready. My mind drifted, carried on the gentle currents of memory. Images flickered, vibrant and sharp, despite the passage of time. My wife and Eleanor, her laughter echoing in the quiet corners of my heart. Her smile, a beacon of warmth that chased away the shadows, a memory I held close, a source of comfort in this desolate landscape. We were young then, full of dreams and boundless optimism, our lives a tapestry woven with shared hopes and aspirations. I saw us again, standing on the porch of our first little house, the scent of freshly cut grass filling the air. The children, so small then, their tiny hands clasped in ours as we walked along the beach, the sun warm on our faces. Daniel, my son, his bright eyes full of mischief and wonder. The memories were a kaleidoscope of vibrant colors, a symphony of joy and laughter, a testament to a life lived with love and purpose. We built a life together, a legacy of shared experiences, of quiet moments of understanding and unspoken promises. There were challenges, of course, the inevitable storms that tested our resolve, But we weathered them together, our love a sturdy ship navigating the turbulent waters. I recall family holidays, crowded around the table, the air thick with laughter and the aroma of Eleanor's cooking. The children's faces, illuminated by the warm glow of the candlelight, etched forever in my memory. These weren't just memories, they were fragments of my soul, pieces of a larger puzzle that defined who I was, who I had become. They were the foundation upon which I had built my life, the bedrock of my identity. And yet, the bittersweet reality of my present situation cast a shadow over these happy recollections. The joy was tempered by a deep-seated sadness, a poignant awareness of what had been lost, of the irreplaceable bonds that had been broken. These memories weren't simply a nostalgic trip to the past. They were a vital part of my present reality, a source of both comfort and sorrow, a reminder of the life I had once lived and the life I was now forging. The past was a treasure trove of cherished memories, but it was not a prison. It was a springboard to a new beginning. But the memories weren't all sunshine and roses. Shadows lingered, whispers of what might have been, of paths not taken, of words left unspoken. Regrets, like persistent weeds, choked the vibrant blooms of my happy recollections. There were opportunities missed, chances squandered, moments of connection left unexplored. The weight of these unspoken words, these unrealized possibilities, pressed down on me, a subtle counterpoint to the joy. I think of the times I was too busy, too preoccupied with work, to truly appreciate the simple moments with my family. The hurried goodbyes, the rushed conversations, the missed opportunities to connect on a deeper level. The regrets weren't dramatic pronouncements. They were quiet whispers, subtle nuances that painted a more complex picture of my past. They weren't accusations, but gentle nudges toward self-reflection. There were times I could have been more patient, more understanding, more present. I could have expressed my love more openly, more consistently. I could have listened more intently, offered more support, been more forgiving. These weren't grand gestures, but rather the small, everyday actions that build the fabric of a relationship. The weight of these regrets wasn't crippling. It was a catalyst for introspection, a gentle nudge towards self-improvement. It wasn't about wallowing in self-recrimination. It was about acknowledging my imperfections, learning from my mistakes, and striving to do better. The past couldn't be changed, but the future was still unwritten. The regrets weren't a condemnation. They were a roadmap, guiding me towards a more fulfilling, a more compassionate future. They were lessons learned, valuable insights that would shape my journey ahead. The regrets were not shackles. They were stepping stones. They were fuel for growth, a source of wisdom that would guide my path forward. They were a part of me, woven into the fabric of my being, shaping the person I am today. Amidst the shadows of regret, glimmers of light emerged. Tender moments etched into the fabric of my memory, providing solace and comfort in this time of upheaval. I remember the day Eleanor surprised me with a hand-knitted scarf. Its warmth a physical manifestation of her love. The simple act, the quiet gesture, spoke volumes of her affection, a silent testament to the depth of our connection. The softness of the wool against my skin, a tangible reminder of her presence, even now, years later. Then there was the time we were driving home from a family picnic, the children asleep in the back seat. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with vibrant hues of orange and purple. Eleanor turned to me, her eyes sparkling with laughter, and we shared a moment of quiet intimacy, a shared appreciation for the beauty of the world around us. The simplicity of the moment, the shared joy, a silent acknowledgement of our bond, a profound connection that transcended words. And there were countless other moments, small gestures and shared experiences that woven themselves into the tapestry of our lives. The way she would smile at me across a crowded room, the gentle touch of her hand on my arm, the quiet moments of shared understanding and unspoken words. These weren't grand, sweeping gestures, but rather the smallest everyday acts of kindness and love that defined our relationship, a silent symphony of affection. These tender memories, like precious jewels, shone brightly against the backdrop of my present sorrow. They weren't simply nostalgic recollections. They were a source of strength, a reminder of the love and connection I had experienced, a testament to the beauty and depth of human relationships. They were a balm to my wounded soul, a comforting presence in the midst of my isolation. These moments, tucked away safely in the recesses of my heart, provided a comforting warmth, a gentle embrace in this period of uncertainty. They nourished my spirit, offering a sense of hope and peace, a reminder that even amidst loss and sorrow, love endures. They were a testament to the enduring power of human connection, a beacon of hope in the vast expanse of my loneliness. The initial shock, the overwhelming sense of loss, began to recede, replaced by a quiet, insistent ember of defiance. It wasn't a roaring fire, not yet, but a tiny spark, a flicker of determination in the vast darkness of my despair. This wasn't about anger or revenge or even understanding. It was about survival, about reclaiming my narrative, about refusing to be defined by this unexpected abandonment. I wouldn't let this define me. This wasn't the end. It was a turning point, a chance to redefine myself, to rewrite my story on my own terms. The seed of self-discovery had been planted, a tiny sprout pushing its way through the hardened earth of my grief. It was a subtle shift, almost imperceptible at first, a quiet rebellion against the despair that threatened to consume me. This wasn't about seeking solace in the past or dwelling on what could have been. It was about embracing the uncertainty of the future, about embracing the unknown with a newfound sense of purpose. The abandonment wasn't a sentence, it was an invitation to explore the uncharted territories of my own being, to delve into the depths of my own soul. The fear was still there, a persistent shadow lurking in the periphery, but it no longer held the same power. It was a companion, not a master. I was learning to navigate its presence, to acknowledge its existence without succumbing to its influence. The journey ahead was uncertain, daunting even, but I felt a surge of unexpected strength, a quiet resolve that surprised even me. This wasn't about finding a replacement for what I had lost. It was about discovering something new, something unexpected, something uniquely me. This spark of determination, this refusal to be defined by the actions of others, this was the foundation upon which I would rebuild my life. It was a quiet revolution, a personal awakening, a testament to the resilience of the human spirit. It was the beginning of my journey, a journey of self-discovery, a journey toward a new understanding of myself, a new appreciation for the unexpected turns life can take. And I was ready to embark on this new adventure, armed with the quiet strength of my own resolve. The decision to book a new flight wasn't simply a logistical arrangement. It was a declaration of independence, a symbolic act of reclaiming my life. It wasn't a flight to anywhere specific. It was a flight away from the wreckage of my expectations, a flight towards the uncharted territory of my own potential. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, hesitant at first, then firm with a newfound resolve. Each keystroke was a step forward, a rejection of the victim mentality that had threatened to engulf me. This wasn't about escaping my pain, it was about confronting it, about facing it head-on and emerging stronger on the other side. The booking process was a ritual, a quiet ceremony of self-affirmation, a symbolic shedding of the old skin, the old expectations, the old disappointments. This flight wasn't a retreat, it was an advance. It was a declaration of intent, a commitment to forging a new path, a path that was uniquely mine. The destination wasn't important, the journey was. This was about taking control, about choosing my own direction, about steering my own course. The act of booking the flight was a powerful affirmation of my self-worth, a quiet rebellion against the forces that had sought to diminish me. With each click, a sense of liberation washed over me, a wave of empowerment that surged through my being. It was a small act, a simple transaction, but it carried immense weight, a profound significance that resonated deep within my soul. This was more than just a travel arrangement. It was a turning point, a moment of profound transformation. It was the beginning of my rebirth. The ticket, a small piece of paper, represented something far greater, a commitment to myself, a promise to explore the uncharted waters of my own being. It was a symbol of hope, a beacon of light in the darkness, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit. The flight was a metaphor for my life, a journey of self-discovery, a voyage into the unknown, and I was ready to embark on this new adventure with a heart full of cautious optimism and a spirit brimming with newfound resilience. The plane ascended, carrying me not just across continents, but into a new phase of my life. Below, the world shrunk, becoming a tapestry of fields and clouds, a fitting metaphor for the vast expanse of the unknown that lay ahead. Fear, of course, was a constant companion, a subtle hum beneath the surface of my newfound courage, but it no longer held the same power, no longer dictated my actions. It was a shadow, yes, but I was learning to walk in its presence, to acknowledge its existence without being consumed by it. This wasn't a flight into blissful ignorance. It was a flight into conscious uncertainty, a deliberate embrace of the unknown. The destination was irrelevant. The journey was the point. This was an exploration of self, a pilgrimage into the uncharted territories of my own being. I was shedding the old skin, the old expectations, the old disappointments, and emerging, tentatively, into something new. The daunting nature of the unknown was undeniable. There were moments of doubt, moments of hesitation, moments when the old anxieties threatened to resurface. But these moments were fleeting, quickly overshadowed by a growing sense of anticipation, a quiet excitement for what might lie ahead. This wasn't about escaping my past, it was about creating a future that was both meaningful and fulfilling. The potential for something new, something unexpected, something truly remarkable, was palpable. It was a sense of possibility, a whisper of hope in the vast expanse of the unknown. It was a feeling of liberation, a sense of freedom from the constraints of expectation, the weight of the past, the burdens of other people's choices. This journey, this adventure, was entirely my own. It was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, a celebration of the unexpected turns life can take, a recognition of the inherent strength that resides within each of us. And as the plane soared through the clouds, I felt a profound sense of peace, a quiet confidence in my ability to navigate whatever the future might hold. The unknown was daunting, yes, but it was also full of promise, full of potential, full of the possibility of a new beginning. The hum of the engines, a constant rhythmic pulse, became a soundtrack to my inner turmoil. The world outside the window shrank, becoming a patchwork of clouds and fields, a fitting visual representation of the vast unknown that lay ahead. This wasn't just a flight, it was a metaphor for my life, a journey into the uncharted territories of my own being. Memories flickered, Eleanor's smile, the children's laughter, the warmth of a family Christmas. These weren't ghosts of the past, but companions on this new journey. They weren't burdens, they were sources of strength, reminders of love and connection, fuel for the road ahead. The regrets, too, were present, but they were no longer paralyzing. They were lessons learned, opportunities for growth, guideposts on this new path. The turbulence, both literal and metaphorical, was a constant. Moments of doubt, moments of fear, moments of uncertainty threatened to overwhelm me. But each time, a quiet strength, a resilience I hadn't known I possessed, surged within me. I was learning to navigate these turbulent currents, to ride the waves of uncertainty, to embrace the chaos. The rhythmic pulse of the engines became a steady heartbeat, a reassuring rhythm in the midst of the storm. It was a reminder that even in the face of adversity, life continues, flowing onward, ever changing. This wasn't an escape. It was a transformation. It was a shedding of the old, a shedding of the expectations, the disappointments, the burdens of the past. As the plane soared through the sky, I felt a sense of liberation, a sense of possibility, a sense of hope. This new chapter, this new beginning was daunting, yes, but it was also exhilarating. It was a chance to redefine myself, to rewrite my story on my own terms. And as I looked out at the vast expanse of the sky, I felt a profound sense of peace, a quiet confidence in my ability to navigate whatever the future might hold. The flight was a metaphor. The journey had begun. Letting go wasn't a single act. It was a process, a slow, deliberate unraveling of the threads that bound me to the past. It wasn't about forgetting. It was about accepting, about acknowledging the pain, the hurt, the disappointments, and then, gently, releasing them. It wasn't about erasing the memories. It was about changing my relationship with them. The regrets, the what-ifs, the should-haves, they were like persistent shadows lurking in the corners of my mind. But I began to see them differently, not as indictments, but as lessons learned, as opportunities for growth. Each regret was a stepping stone, a guidepost pointing towards a more fulfilling future. The anger, the bitterness, the resentment, these emotions had been heavy burdens weighing me down, preventing me from moving forward. But gradually, I began to let them go, to release their grip on my heart. It wasn't a sudden erasure. It was a gradual fading, a slow release, like the gentle ebb of the tide. This wasn't about denying the past. It was about finding peace with it. It was about acknowledging the pain, the hurt, the disappointment, without allowing it to define me. It was about accepting that the past was immutable, unchangeable, but that my future was not. I could choose to be defined by the past, or I could choose to create a new narrative, a new story, a new future. The process was slow, painstaking even, but it was also liberating. With each small act of release, with each conscious decision to let go, I felt a lightness, a sense of freedom, a sense of possibility. It was like shedding layers of old skin, revealing a newer, stronger, more resilient self beneath. This wasn't about forgetting. It was about remembering differently, about viewing the past through a lens of acceptance and understanding. It was about finding peace with the imperfections, the mistakes, the regrets. It was about embracing the lessons learned, the wisdom gained, the strength discovered. And in letting go of the past, I found myself embracing the present and looking forward to the future with a newfound sense of hope and anticipation. The past was a teacher. The future was my canvas. The realization dawned slowly, subtly at first, then with increasing clarity. My worth wasn't contingent upon the actions of others. My value wasn't defined by my family's choices or their absence. It resided within me, inherent, intrinsic, a fundamental truth that had been obscured, but was now finally emerging into the light. This wasn't a sudden epiphany, a dramatic revelation. It was a gradual awakening, a quiet blossoming of self-awareness. It was a recognition of my own strength, my own resilience, my own capacity for love and compassion, independent of external validation. I had endured, I had persevered, I had survived, and in that survival, I found my worth. The pain of abandonment was still present, a lingering ache in my heart, but it no longer held the same power, no longer defined me. It was a part of my story, yes, but it was not the whole story. My story was far richer, far more complex, far more nuanced than that single unpainful chapter. My resilience, once a quiet strength I hadn't fully acknowledged, now shone brightly, a beacon in the darkness. It was a testament to my enduring spirit, my capacity to overcome adversity, my ability to find hope even in the face of despair. This resilience, this unwavering spirit, was a source of profound pride, a testament to my inherent worth. I began to see myself not as a victim, but as a survivor, not as someone who had been abandoned, but as someone who had chosen to rise above the ashes, to rebuild, to create a new life, a new narrative. This wasn't about self-pity. It was about self-respect, about recognizing my own intrinsic value, my own inherent dignity. The strength I found wasn't born of anger or resentment. It was born of acceptance, of understanding, of self-compassion. It was the quiet strength of a spirit unbroken, a heart unbowed, a mind unyielding. And in that strength, I found a deep and abiding sense of self-worth, a recognition of my own inherent value, independent of the actions of others. My value was not defined by them. It was defined by me. The awakening wasn't a dramatic event. It was a subtle shift, a gradual unfolding, like the slow unfurling of a flower. It began with small things, The quiet satisfaction of a cup of tea in the morning sun, the pleasure of a well-read book, the simple joy of a walk in nature. These were moments of solitude, moments of quiet contemplation, moments of self-discovery. I had always been a man of action, a man who thrived on connection, on interaction, on the energy of others. But in this new solitude, I found a different kind of energy, a quiet strength, a sense of peace. It wasn't loneliness. It was a profound sense of self-sufficiency, a quiet contentment in my own company. The silence, once a source of anxiety, now became a sanctuary, a space for reflection, a place where I could reconnect with myself, with my thoughts, with my feelings. It was in these moments of quiet contemplation that I began to understand myself better, to appreciate my own strengths, my own resilience, my own capacity for joy. I discovered a pleasure in simple things: the beauty of a sunset, the sound of rain on the roof, the warmth of the sun on my skin. These were moments of profound connection, not with others, but with myself, with the world around me, with the quiet rhythms of life. These small moments, once overlooked, now held a profound beauty. The solitude allowed me to process my emotions, to grieve my losses, to accept my disappointments, to forgive myself and others. It was a space for healing, a place where I could nurture my spirit, where I could reconnect with my inner self, where I could rediscover my own inherent worth. This wasn't an escape from the world. It was a retreat into myself, a journey inward, a pilgrimage to the heart of my being. And in that journey, I found a profound sense of peace, a quiet contentment, a deep and abiding sense of self-acceptance. The solitude was not a void. It was a wellspring of strength, of resilience, of hope. It was in the quiet moments that I truly came alive. The strength I discovered wasn't a physical strength. It was something deeper, something more profound, a resilience of the spirit. It wasn't about brute force or outward displays of power. It was about an inner fortitude, a quiet determination to endure, to persevere, to overcome. This strength was forged in the fires of adversity, tempered by the trials I had faced. It wasn't a strength I had always possessed. It was a strength I had cultivated, nurtured, and discovered within myself. It was the strength of a man who had faced his fears, his doubts, his disappointments, and had emerged stronger, wiser, more resilient. It was a strength born of acceptance, of understanding, of self-compassion. This resilience wasn't about avoiding pain or hardship. It was about facing them head-on, about embracing the challenges, about learning from the setbacks. It was about finding meaning in the unexpected, about discovering beauty in the midst of adversity. It was a strength that allowed me to navigate the turbulent waters of life with grace and dignity. The unexpected circumstances, the abandonment, the loss, these were not insurmountable obstacles. They were opportunities for growth, for self-discovery, for transformation. They were the crucible in which my inner strength was forged, the trials that tested my mettle and revealed the depth of my resilience. I learned to view adversity not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a teacher, a guide, a catalyst for change. It was in the face of adversity that I discovered my true strength, my true resilience, my true self. This wasn't about overcoming. It was about embracing, about integrating the challenges into the tapestry of my life, transforming them into threads of wisdom and strength. The journey had been difficult, painful even, but it had also been profoundly transformative. It had revealed a strength I didn't know I possessed, a resilience that surprised even me. And in that strength, in that resilience, I found a profound sense of peace, a quiet confidence in my ability to navigate whatever the future might hold. My inner strength was my compass, guiding me towards a new beginning, a new life, a new me. The world, once seen through a lens of expectation and disappointment, now appeared anew, vibrant and full of wonder. The colors seemed brighter, the sounds more resonant, the air itself charged with a newfound energy. It wasn't just a change in scenery, it was a change in perspective, a shift in my internal landscape. The small things, once overlooked, now held a profound beauty. A sunrise painting the sky in hues of gold and rose, the delicate dance of a butterfly on a summer bloom, the comforting warmth of a crackling fire on a chilly evening. These were moments of profound joy, moments of quiet contemplation, moments of profound gratitude. My heart, once weighed down by sadness and resentment, now felt lighter, freer, more open to the beauty around me. I found myself noticing things I had never noticed before: the intricate patterns of a spider's web, the playful chatter of birds in the trees, the comforting presence of a gentle breeze. This wasn't a naive optimism. It was a realistic appreciation of the world's inherent beauty, a recognition of the simple joys that life had to offer. It was a sense of wonder, a childlike curiosity, a renewed sense of awe in the face of nature's majesty. The people I encountered, once viewed with suspicion or indifference, now seemed more approachable, more human, more connected. I found myself engaging with them more readily, more openly, more compassionately. The world once perceived as a cold, indifferent place now felt warmer, kinder, more inviting. This wasn't about ignoring the pain or the hardship. It was about finding a way to coexist with it, to find beauty and meaning, even in the midst of adversity. It was about embracing the imperfections, the challenges, the setbacks, and finding gratitude in the simple fact of being alive. My perspective had shifted. My heart had opened. The world, once seen through a veil of sorrow, now revealed its vibrant beauty, its boundless wonder. And in that newfound appreciation, I found a profound sense of peace, a quiet joy, a deep and abiding gratitude for the gift of life. Solitude, once a dreaded companion, became a cherished friend. It wasn't the loneliness of isolation, it was the peace of introspection, the quietude of self-reflection. In the stillness, I found a clarity I had never known before, a space to process my emotions, to understand my past, and to envision my future. The silence wasn't empty. It was filled with the gentle hum of my own thoughts, the quiet rhythm of my own breathing, the subtle whispers of my own soul. It was a space where I could connect with my inner self, where I could explore my feelings without judgment, where I could nurture my spirit. I learned to appreciate the simple pleasures of solitude, the warmth of the sun on my face, the gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, the comforting silence of a quiet room. These were moments of profound connection, not with others but with myself, with the world around me, with the quiet rhythms of life. In the solitude, I rediscovered my passions, my interests, my creativity. I found joy in simple tasks, tending to my garden, reading a good book, listening to music, painting. These were moments of self-expression, of self-discovery, of self-fulfillment. The solitude wasn't an escape from the world. It was a retreat into myself, a journey inward, a pilgrimage to the heart of my being. And in that journey, I found a profound sense of peace, a quiet contentment, a deep and abiding sense of self-acceptance. I learned to listen to the whispers of my soul, to trust my intuition, to follow my heart. This wasn't about withdrawing from life. It was about reconnecting with myself, about rediscovering my inner strength, my inner peace, my inner joy. The solitude was a sanctuary, a place of refuge, a space for growth, a place where I could nurture my spirit and prepare for the next chapter of my life. It was in the embrace of solitude that I found my true self. The emptiness I had felt began to fill, not with the clamor of external demands, but with the quiet satisfaction of pursuing my own interests. I found myself drawn to activities I had neglected for years: painting, gardening, writing. These weren't mere hobbies. They were avenues of self-expression, pathways to a deeper understanding of myself. The colors on the canvas became reflections of my inner world, vibrant expressions of emotions I had long suppressed. The soil beneath my fingernails, once a symbol of drudgery, now represented the nurturing of something new, something beautiful, something uniquely mine. The words on the page flowed effortlessly, transforming my thoughts and feelings into tangible creations. It wasn't just about the activities themselves. It was about the process, the journey of creation, the quiet satisfaction of bringing something into being. Each brushstroke, each planted seed, each written word was a step forward, a step towards a deeper understanding of myself, a deeper connection to my inner self. I joined a local art class, a surprising mix of people from all walks of life. I found myself connecting with others who shared my passion, sharing our experiences, offering encouragement, celebrating our successes. The connections were genuine, authentic, a source of warmth and friendship. I found a sense of belonging, a feeling of community. My garden became a sanctuary, a place of peace and tranquility. The vibrant colors of the flowers, the sweet scent of the blossoms, the gentle hum of the bees. These were moments of pure joy, moments of profound connection with the natural world. It was a place where I could escape the noise and chaos of the outside world and reconnect with my inner self. I began to volunteer at a local library, sharing my love of books with others. I found immense satisfaction in helping others discover the joys of reading, sharing my passion, making a difference in the lives of others. This act of giving back, of contributing to the community, brought a new sense of purpose and fulfillment. I was no longer defined by my losses. I was defined by my contributions. I had found my purpose, and it was beautiful. The small coastal town unfolded before me, a picturesque haven nestled between the sea and the rolling hills. A gentle sea breeze, carrying the scent of salt and pine, kissed my face as I stepped off the bus. The air was clean, crisp, invigorating, a stark contrast to the stale, recycled air of the city I had left behind. Sunlight, warm and inviting, bathed the quaint streets in a golden glow. The houses, painted in pastel shades, seemed to whisper stories of generations past. Flower boxes, overflowing with vibrant blooms, adorned windowsills, adding splashes of color to the charming landscape. The rhythmic crash of waves against the shore provided a soothing soundtrack to my arrival. My new home, a small cottage overlooking the ocean, was even more charming than the photographs had suggested. The scent of fresh paint mingled with the salty air, creating a welcoming aroma. Sunlight streamed through the windows, illuminating the polished wooden floors and the cozy fireplace. A sense of peace and tranquility settled over me as I surveyed my surroundings. The sounds of the ocean were hypnotic. The gentle lapping of waves against the shore, the rhythmic crashing of larger swells, the distant cries of seagulls. It was a symphony of nature, a calming melody that soothed my soul. The rhythmic pulse of the ocean mirrored the steady beat of my own heart, a reassuring reminder of the life-giving force of nature. From my window, I could see the endless expanse of the ocean, a vast canvas of blues and greens stretching to the horizon. The sky was a brilliant blue, dotted with fluffy white clouds that drifted lazily across the expanse. It was a breathtaking panorama, a visual feast that filled me with a sense of awe and wonder. The garden, though small, was bursting with life. Herbs, flowers, and a few struggling vegetables. I could already envision myself tending to the plants, nurturing their growth, watching them flourish under the warm sun. The garden would become my sanctuary, a place of peace and tranquility, a connection to the natural world. It was a new beginning, a fresh start, a chance to cultivate something beautiful. A sense of anticipation, tinged with hope, filled my heart. This was more than just a new place, it was a new life. The future stretched before me, not as a daunting expanse of uncertainty, but as a canvas waiting to be painted. The colors were vibrant, the possibilities endless. I wasn't afraid. I was excited. This wasn't an ending, it was a new beginning. I envisioned myself strolling along the beach at sunrise, the golden light painting the sky in hues of orange and pink. I saw myself tending my garden, nurturing the growth of flowers and herbs, connecting with the earth. I pictured myself painting, the colors flowing from my brush onto the canvas, expressing the emotions within my heart. I imagined myself writing, the words flowing effortlessly, transforming my thoughts and feelings into stories. I anticipated the quiet evenings spent by the fireplace, reading a good book, listening to the soothing sounds of the ocean. I looked forward to sharing my life with new friends, connecting with others who shared my passions, forming bonds of friendship and mutual respect. I saw myself volunteering at the local library, sharing my love of books with others, making a difference in their lives. This wasn't about forgetting the past, it was about learning from it, embracing it, and moving forward. The pain was still there, a subtle ache in my heart, a reminder of what I had lost. But it no longer defined me. It had become a part of my story, a testament to my resilience, my strength, my ability to overcome adversity. This new chapter wasn't about replacing what I had lost. It was about creating something new, something beautiful, something uniquely my own. It was about discovering the person I was always meant to be, free from the constraints of expectation, free from the weight of the past, free to embrace the possibilities of the future. The journey hadn't been easy, but it had been transformative. It had led me to a deeper understanding of myself, a greater appreciation for life's simple joys, and a profound sense of peace. This was more than just a new beginning. It was a rebirth. And as I looked out at the endless expanse of the ocean, I felt a surge of hope, a sense of optimism, a quiet confidence that the best was yet to come. The future was bright, and I was ready.